I woke to metal striking dirt, short, sharp hits coming from the woods behind my pond. Shotgun in hand, I moved in fast, staying low until two figures came into view. They were digging a deep pit, a hazard-labeled drum waiting beside them. My flashlight blasted across the clearing. They froze. My dogs growled. One of them whispered, shaking. She said we just had to bury it and leave. They dropped the shovel and sprinted toward the HOA ridge. I stepped to the edge of the pit, stomach tightening. Whatever they were trying to hide, it wasn't meant to stay underground. Sun wasn't even up when the next hit came. A white Mercedes Maybach glided to a perfect stop at the edge of my driveway, shiny, oversized, the kind of luxury tank people buy when they need strangers to know they're important. The door opened, and out stepped Trouble, wrapped in linen and arrogance. "Good morning," she said, voice smooth as varnish. "I'm Marissa Caldwell, president of Horizon Ridge Estates." Behind her stood Brett Lawson, one of the same men I'd chased out of my woods a few hours earlier. Same vest, same boots, same misplaced confidence. Marissa didn't bother asking permission. She held out a clipboard like she was issuing orders to an employee. "We need to address several violations your property is causing for our community," she said. "Perimeter hazards, unregulated storage, visual impact issues." I cut her off. "My land isn't inside your HOA. You don't have authority here." Her smile tightened. "Temporarily we do." Then she passed me a document stamped with a county seal. One glance was enough. Wrong seal, wrong layout, wrong signature. A forgery amateur hour. I called Sheriff Grant Holloway right in front of her. He arrived, studied the paper once, and his jaw set like stone. "This signature belongs to a sheriff who retired 9 years ago," he said flatly. Then to Marissa, "Where did you get this?" Her confidence cracked just a flick, but she stepped back toward her Maybach. "This isn't over, Mr. Maddox." She was right. It was only beginning. The morning after Marissa's forged document stunt, the fence line turned into a parade. A white HOA golf cart glided past my pasture at barely walking speed. Two people inside, clipboards up heads, turning like security cameras. They didn't wave, didn't smile. They just pointed at my tractor, then at my barn, then scribbled notes like they were cataloging a crime scene. An hour later, another cart came by. Same pattern, slow roll, long stare, quiet writing. By noon, a third. Every time I stepped toward the fence to ask what the hell they thought they were doing, they bolted tires, spitting gravel engines, whining like guilty dogs running home. That evening I found a folded paper tucked under a rock at my gate. Concern, odors, unsafe machinery placement, improper waste storage. Please comply immediately. No name, no signature, just that smug word, concern. My morning coffee routine, usually nothing but mist and quiet, now had an audience. And not the kind any farmer tolerates for long. But this was only the first layer. They weren't done circling. On the third day, they crossed from staring to stepping in. I was sharpening a brush cutter blade in my workshop when gravel crunched behind the barn, steady, deliberate footsteps. Not mine, not my dog's. I stepped out. Brett Lawson stood inside my fence line, 10 feet from my tools, wearing that ridiculous HOA civilian patrol vest and holding a body cam that blinked red. Worse, he had a DSLR pointed straight at my fuel cans. "Sir," he announced, "I'm conducting an official perimeter integrity assessment under no," I said flatly. "You're trespassing." He stiffened. "HOA directive permits hazard documentation. This isn't HOA land." His jaw tightened. He lifted his radio. "Patrol reporting subject is confrontational." I took one step forward. He froze mid-sentence. The bravado drained out of him like someone pulled the plug. "This is private property," I said. "You leave now, or Sheriff Holloway finds you here himself." Brett backed away, then turned and sprinted toward the tree line, half tripping over his own boots as he scrambled into a golf cart waiting just beyond the fence. I filed a report with Holloway. He didn't hide his irritation. "People only act this bold," he said, "when someone higher is telling them they can." And we both knew who that someone was. The harassment shifted from humans to machines. At dawn the next morning, a high-end drone hummed low across my driveway, too low for a hobbyist, too steady for a kid. It swung over my goat pens, hovered by the workshop door, then glided toward my kitchen window like it was checking if the lights were on. I walked outside and stared straight at it. It didn't rise, didn't retreat. It tilted, almost like it was studying me. Hours later, the same drone buzzed over the pond, wobbling like whoever controlled it didn't know the controls well enough. It clipped a branch, spiraled, and dropped straight into the water. The splash was loud enough to make the ducks scatter. I waded in, grabbed a rake, and fished the thing out. Water poured from the casing as I unscrewed the shell and pulled the SD card. Back inside the house, the files told the real story. Not one flight, dozens. Not one angle, every angle of my land. My barn, my livestock, my fuel tanks, my home. Then the final file, a PDF labeled Phase 2 Expansion. Preliminary. I opened it. My entire farm, my 90 acres, was replaced by streets, cul-de-sacs, and a blue circle labeled Lakeview Luxury Lots. A note in the margin read, "Current landowner likely resistant. Contingency options required." My jaw tightened. Now I understood the drones. They weren't spying. They were planning. By noon, I'd called Dr. Elise Garner, an environmental consultant I trusted. She spent the afternoon documenting every inch of my property: soil, water, fuel, storage, runoff, all clean, all compliant. If someone planned to weaponize the state against me, I wanted my shields up first. That night at 8:37 p.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "This is Cole," I answered, a shaky breath. "Mr. Maddox, my name is Tobias Manning. I used to work HOA security. We need to talk. Not near your place. Not near theirs." 20 minutes later, we met at an empty river pull-off, a single flickering light overhead. Tobias stepped out of an old Honda hoodie, up, hands shaking. "I didn't sign up for this," he whispered. "Marissa told us to push you. Drones, patrols, constant pressure, make you snap so the HOA could claim you were a threat. And when none of that worked, he swallowed hard. She told us to stage violations, fake contamination, dig on your land, bury treated soil behind your pond." I stared at him. He looked like a man drowning in guilt. "And the drone pilot?" I asked. "Justin Caldwell," he said. "Her nephew. He's terrified you found the drone. Terrified you'll expose everything." My pulse stayed steady. Now the chain was visible, and the top of it had Marissa's name stamped all over it. Close to 2 a.m. Sleep wasn't even an option. Tobias's confession looped through my head as I checked trail cams along the west tree line. Then, crunch. Boots. 2 sets. Moving fast but trying to stay quiet. I killed the porch light and stepped into the woods with my dogs. Another sound followed, the metallic thunk of a shovel biting earth. Through the trees, a faint circle of headlamp light flickered. 2 men stood in a shallow clearing, one lifting a hazard-labeled drum, the other digging a pit exactly where Tobias said they would. Their breath showed white in the cold air. "Come on," one hissed. She said 2 feet deep is enough. My trail cam blinked red above them, capturing every frame. I stepped out, flashlight blasting full power. They jerked backward, nearly dropping the drum. My dogs growled low, the kind that vibrates through bone. I racked the shotgun once. The sound sliced through the clearing. "You boys planting something?" I asked. "No, sir, we didn't. Save it." They dropped the shovel, stumbled over each other, and bolted through the trees, crashing toward Horizon Ridge, with all the elegance of fleeing deer. I didn't chase. I stared at the half-dug pit, the illegal drum, the perfect camera angle, recording it all. Tobias was right. This wasn't harassment. It was a takedown plan. But they'd made one fatal mistake. They thought I was alone. Morning came sharp and cold, but the farm felt different, like the land itself was bracing. At 9:12 a.m., a dust-gray SUV rolled up my driveway, government plates, tinted glass, 2 inspectors stepping out in matching khaki vests. "Mr. Cole Maddox," the woman asked. "Environmental Protection Division. We received multiple complaints from Horizon Ridge." Of course they did. "Before you start," I said, sliding a folder from under my arm, "you'll want this." She opened it. 40 pages stamped by Dr. Elise Garner, soil tests, water, purity, waste management, fuel logs, everything documented down to the ounce. Perfect. Legal, bulletproof. They toured the property, snapping photos, checking labels, questioning procedures. I answered everything cleanly. Then the male inspector spotted disturbed soil near the tree line, right where the contaminated drum had been. "That's recent," he said. "I can explain," I replied. "Actually, I can show you." Inside my kitchen, I played the trail cam footage. Their expressions changed from curiosity to icy focus. 2 intruders, digging, placing a hazard drum, whispering about someone named Marissa, and sprinting away when I exposed them. The inspectors exchanged a look. "This isn't a compliance issue," the woman said. "This is a criminal complaint. And not against you." Before they left, she added, "Expect formal findings by the end of the day." But I didn't have to wait that long. At 10:04 a.m., Sheriff Grant Holloway called me. "Cole, it's time." I followed Holloway's patrol truck into Horizon Ridge. The neighborhood felt frozen curtains, twitching golf carts, abandoned residents standing on porches, pretending not to stare. We pulled up in front of the HOA clubhouse, and there she was, Marissa Caldwell, cream blazer, perfect clipboard in hand, scolding a man walking his dog. "You are in violation of leash visibility standards," she snapped. "If you don't like the rules, you can leave this community." Marissa Holloway called out. She turned, smile rehearsed. "Sheriff, good morning. If you're here about the environmental situation," he cut her off. "There is no situation, except you." Her smile twitched. "I don't understand." "Yes, you do." Holloway stepped forward, holding a small stack of printed files, drone logs, payment transfers, text orders, a forged jurisdiction document, and a voice memo from your nephew Justin. Color drained from her face. The deputy pressed play. Justin's voice spilled out shaky and desperate. Marissa said, "If Maddox cracks, we annex the land. She told me to push pressure. She said bury the drum behind his pond if nothing else works." Gasps rippled across the clubhouse steps. Marissa lunged for the device. "That idiot, he wasn't supposed to." Holloway raised a hand. "Miss Caldwell, stop talking." "He lied," she barked, voice cracking. "He brought us the drone flight paths," Holloway said calmly. "And your emails about Phase 2. Residents stared at her like they were seeing her for the first time. "I built this community," she screamed. "No," Holloway replied. "You exploited it." He nodded to his deputy, and the cuffs clicked. We headed straight to the courthouse. No breaks, no waiting, no time jumps. The momentum didn't stop. It couldn't. Inside the hearing room, Marissa sat between two attorneys, her blazer, wrinkled hair, fraying eyes, darting at every new document placed on the judge's bench. Judge Elias Mercer adjusted his glasses. "Miss Caldwell, the charges against you are extensive." Her attorney tried to object. Mercer silenced him with a raised hand. Holloway delivered the evidence like hammer blows: unauthorized surveillance, criminal trespass via proxy, attempted environmental contamination, forged jurisdiction orders, conspiracy to seize private land, coercion of HOA staff, misuse of HOA funds. Each charge landed harder as the visuals appeared on the court monitor. First, the drone footage. Then the Phase 2 map showing my land overwritten with cul-de-sacs. Then the trail cam video, the intruders burying the drum. Then Justin's recordings, nervous, guilty, undeniable. Marissa shook her head violently. "This is taken out of context. Your own nephew corroborated every detail," the judge said. "He's lying to protect himself." "He already accepted responsibility," Judge Mercer said calmly, "and his testimony is consistent with law enforcement findings." Her chair scraped the floor as she stood. "This is a setup. Cole Maddox is manipulating all of you. I didn't say a word." Mercer delivered his ruling like steel. "Miss Caldwell is hereby remanded to state custody, pending full sentencing. The HOA of Horizon Ridge is placed under immediate state receivership for audit and restructuring." A stunned silence washed through the room. As deputies escorted her out, Marissa finally broke, voice hoarse, face red, screaming at anyone who would listen. "You can't do this. I am Horizon." Ridge Holloway watched her disappear through the side door. Then he looked at me, hat in hand. "Told you," he said quietly. "We weren't after pawns." He turned toward the exit. "We just took down the Queen." We walked out of the courthouse into clean midday sunlight. No clouds, no noise, just the quiet thrum of a town that had finally pushed a storm out of its system. Sheriff Grant Holloway fell into step beside me as we crossed the square, neither of us speaking for a moment. The weight of the morning still hung in the air, settling slowly like dust after a demolition. At the bottom of the courthouse steps, he stopped and looked toward my truck. "Let's head back," he said. "There's more you need to hear best said on your land." I nodded. We drove in silence, both trucks rolling down the country road like a slow-moving procession. Not a funeral, more like a release. When we reached my gate, I stepped out first. The hinges creaked softly as I swung it open. Holloway parked beside me and climbed out carrying a folder tucked under his arm. The man never rushed. Even victory he handled steady. Before he could speak, the crunch of tires sounded on the gravel behind us. A small caravan of Horizon Ridge residents rolled up, 3 cars, 1 golf cart, a handful of people climbing out with hesitant faces. People who had watched silently as Marissa carved their neighborhood into something brittle. A woman stepped forward holding a pie tin like a peace flag. "Mr. Maddox," she said, voice shaky. We owe you an apology. We didn't know all she was doing." Another man nodded hard. "We should have asked questions sooner. That's on us." I could see the guilt in their eyes. Genuine, heavy. I didn't want blame. I didn't want them kneeling on coals for something they weren't even allowed to see. So I kept it simple. "What happened?" I said. "Don't let it happen again. To anyone." They nodded as if the wind had finally shifted toward them too. One of them set the pie onto my tailgate before they all turned back toward their cars, quieter, but relieved, like people stepping out from under a shadow they didn't realize had grown over them. As their caravan disappeared up the road, Holloway took off his hat and exhaled. "Funny thing," he said, "fear keeps folks quiet, but relief gets them talking. Whole neighborhood's been calling the station since Marissa's arrest, talking about what I asked, everything he said. You'll hear the fallout soon enough." He handed me the folder. "State's already moving," Holloway said. "Receivership started the minute Judge Mercer ordered it. HOA board has been dissolved, all authority stripped." I flipped the folder open. Top page, State Auditor's Office. Emergency Oversight Appointment, second page. Notice of Suspension, Horizon Ridge. HOA Operations. Third Developer Inquiry, pending violation review. Holloway tapped the third page. Caldwell wasn't acting alone. Developers up next. They funded half her nonsense, maybe more. Environmental Protection Division is building its case. Racketeering charges aren't off the table. He leaned against the truck. As for the guys who dug the pit, they're cooperating. Not heroes, but not the masterminds either. They'll face charges, but lesser ones. They ran the minute you stepped out means they knew they were being used. I closed the folder. The edges felt heavier than paper had any right to be. "And Justin?" I asked. "Community service," Holloway said. 500 hours. Lost his drone privileges for a long while. Judge Mercer didn't want to wreck the kid's life, but he wasn't letting him off easy either. And Marissa, his expression tightened, but not with anger, finality. "She's in county custody until transfer. No bail. Evidence is too solid. She'll serve time. A lot of it." The wind shifted, pushing a warm current through the grass. Somewhere in the distance, my goats complained about nothing in particular. For the first time in weeks, the sound didn't feel like noise. It felt like home again. Holloway opened his truck door, then paused. "One more thing," he said. "There'll be a settlement offer from the developer. Their lawyer's already called. They know what's coming." "How big?" I asked. "Big enough to mean they're scared." After Holloway drove off, I stood alone at the gate folder, tucked under my arm. The road hummed with the low drone of insects. The sky was wide, clean, open. I walked toward the newly reinforced gate. Fresh steel, smooth welds, solid bolts, anchoring it to concrete footers. I poured myself. In the center hung a new sign. "Private land, no HOA authority access by permission, only simple." Clear. The way things should have been from the start. I rested my hand on the metal warm from the sun solid beneath my palm. The kind of solidity you feel in your chest, not your fingers. Behind me, my dogs trotted up, tails swinging. They sat at my feet like they were waiting for the world to settle so we could all breathe again. Quiet rolled across the pasture, the kind that settles in layers. No drones, no golf carts, no patrol vests pretending to be badges, just land, my land. A soft vibration buzzed in my pocket. A text from Holloway developer folded. "Settlement approved. You're covered, Cole." I typed back 2 words, "Good riddance." I slid the phone away and took a slow breath, the kind that fills every corner of your lungs. The kind you don't realize you've been missing until the danger's gone. The wind brushed through the tall grass, bending it in waves. The oak by the pond shimmered with new leaves. Even the air smelled different, like a house after a storm, windows open, everything clean again. For the first time since this whole mess started, the silence returned. Not the uneasy silence they tried to force on me, the good kind, the earned kind. I locked the gate, turned toward the house, and smiled. This time, the quiet was mine again. And it wasn't going anywhere.